You tell people what is important to you by how you spend your time. This is something I learned from the book 168 Hours. And this has come up in relationship to marriage because of some of the things I've been reading about people, specifically husbands, only stepping up, only participating when it's convenient. I'm Leslie Dories, your marriage coach, and this is a really deadly behavior. It cropped up in a book that I was reading. It cropped up in a blog post by a guy that I follow, Matt Fry. And the idea of convenience, right? There are a lot of times when we just don't want to do things. And that's okay as long as you're clear about it. But here's part of the problem. One of the things that happens is that your wife asks you to do something, or she tells you that something is important to you. You say, yeah, I'll do it. And then it doesn't happen, which then puts her in a really bad position because she can either bring it up to you again and then she's nagging, or she doesn't bring it up and waits for you to do it and then feels let down. And, I know that a lot of people have challenges, ADD being one of them. But here's the thing. If you can be successful at your job when you have these conditions, ADD, depression, high stress levels, right? But you don't do it at home, whether you know it or not, you're sending a really damaging message. What you're saying to your wife is that what matters to her isn't important to you. It's not convenient. You want to kick back on the couch, maybe watch some sports. You don't want to clean the kitchen. All right. And here's the deal, right? And I get it. What matters to her isn't the same thing that matters to you, and vice versa. And there's a lot of people who say, well, I don't know why it's such a big deal to her. I want you to flip that and imagine her saying that to you. Well, I don't know why that's such a big deal. It's dismissive. It's disrespectful. And by the way, you would never say that on your job, to your boss, to your coworker. So why will you say it to your wife? Because I'm going to tell you, getting another job is going to be a lot easier than losing your marriage. And I get that maybe you don't understand why it's important to her, but here's the question. Does that really matter? Or does it matter that it is? Now, you can have a conversation with her about what makes it important, but not from the position of her having to defend herself, but more because you're really interested in learning more about her and what makes this important. But when it just kind of goes, sure, I'll do it, and then it doesn't happen, that is not commitment. That is functioning on convenience. And like I said last week about inertia, convenience is another one of those things, right? That I just don't want to do it. Okay? And by the way, you don't have to. But if you add too many of those things together, then it's not going to work in the long run. And part of this is she doesn't have to explain why it's important. You don't have to explain why things are important. The fact that it's important to the person that I promise to love, honor, and cherish until death should be enough. Now, if you truly don't want to do it, or truly incapable of doing it, that's a real conversation to have. Maybe her expectations are not reasonable, or maybe her expectations are just something that you're not willing to meet. But again, you want those things to be few and far between. And because everybody has a right not to do certain things. But be upfront about it. But don't say you're going to do it and then don't follow through, and then don't get mad when she brings it up again. Now, there's lots of tools and tricks that you can use. these things right here are actually a real danger to marriage, but they can also be helpful in certain ways. That if your wife asks you to do something and you're somebody who is forgetful or overwhelmed or has ADD, put it in the notes section. Put it on the calendar. I mean, we have these things at our fingertips. And I mean, I once asked my husband how he could remember doing things at work because he didn't seem to remember when our kids had events, even though they were on the calendar. And he said, well, I have somebody to remind me. Well, he no longer has an administrative assistant, and he still manages to get things done at work because he's learned to put them on his calendar. And when, as I said in the beginning, you tell the people in your life what's important to you by how you spend your time. And if your time is spent in other ways other than supporting the marriage, that's the message she's going to take, even if it isn't the one you mean. And so I'm just going to challenge you to think about, are you one of these people like the character in my book, or like the man in Matt's blog post who only wants to do things when it's convenient? I mean, you wouldn't do that with your baby. You wouldn't say, well, it's not convenient for me to get up in the middle of the night to change your diapers. You will do that, right? Even though it's not convenient, you'd rather sleep. And so what we have to be careful of is you are always communicating with your wife, with the people around you. And the big question is, are you communicating what you mean to communicate? And if you're not, that's where I can help. So if you're struggling with this, please take a moment, get in touch, send me a DM, send me an email at leslie@foundationscoachingnc.com. Subscribe to the channel if you find this helpful, but don't let your marriage suffer from either inertia or convenience. So hopefully you found this helpful, and until next week, stay loving.